Hello, good people. Welcome back to the Kuhb Games YouTube channel. My name is Evan, and we play goats here. Wanted to show off some ideas that I've been throwing around with warriors recently. The deck has obviously been way down in the meta, so I've just been kind of throwing things at the wall, seeing what sticks, and nothing has stuck so far. But I think this is a cool idea with the deck. Mostly just throwing 2 Cybersteins in the main. Maybe this could be cut down to 1. I think that's probably fine, but I opted for 2 mostly just to see the card more for testing purposes, and 1 giant true nade to accompany that in the main. That's really the only difference in the main from like a standard warrior deck. I guess I opted to put in the second Dust Tornado. I'd only been playing 1 recently because Warrior's kind of down, so you don't really need all of the Dust Tornadoes. Not a lot of people are playing Burn either, but Dust Tornado does do pretty well with Cyberstein, just helping to clear back row. The sideboard is where it gets a little interesting. This is sort of just another take on a transitional sideboard, but I really wanted to play a lot of brain controls, sort of taking a little bit of the page out of the Earth aggro deck. Just want to beat down as fast as possible. Brain control, very good with that. Zaborg, really good with brain control. Mobius, really good with brain control. If we're bringing in Zaborg and Mobius, Magician of Faith is also a card that pairs well with it. And then we're bringing in more lights, so Chaos Sorcerer, a natural fit. So I sort of started there, and I'm like, you know, this is changing up the way the Warrior plays. Why don't we just go completely off of how Warrior plays and completely change up how the deck plays? Game 2 and 3, and throw in a little curveball that people are certainly not going to be expecting in Scapegoat and Metamorphosis. This is obviously not the best Metamorphosis deck. However, we are playing 2 copies of Brain Control, so that'll help out with the Metamorphosis, and also this is just really good against the aggro decks. So I wanted to give it a shot. Am I completely sold on it? No, could be a bad idea. But it's just one thing that I wanted to try out because I felt like it was going to be something completely unexpected, and really helps against like how the opponents are going to be sideboarding against warriors. And then the last thing we have are just 3 Royal Decrees. Sort of fits this whole package. We just turn into a control deck essentially, and like all of our opponents are going to be siding against Sakuretsus and stuff like that. So Royal Decree is very good there, and also if we play against more aggro decks, Royal Decree is going to be very good. Also just very good against burn as well. So I thought it was an interesting transitional side here. Mostly what I'm taking out is like this bottom row down here, and potentially Call of the Haunted. And then the rest is sort of matchup dependent. You can side out, you know, Nox if they're not good, a Cyberstein, or both if you really need to. Kaikus if they're not good. I like taking out some number of Blade Knight as well. Just kind of depends on what you're up against at that point. But I do have a replay with the deck against a pretty decent player, so wanted to show that off. We'll get into the games. Okay, so we have some games here. This is a mirror match, so I think that's sort of where the transitional sideboard is going to hit the hardest, though it does, you know, it does still work against the way that, you know, Turbo and those style of decks are going to be siding against you. So we rip off a duo here, just to start the game out. No reason not to, obviously. We're going to take out a Kaiku and a Nobleman of Crossout, so not the biggest of deals, but we take those. Not going to summon the Donzalug. I do have a Torrential, so I don't want to really commit a monster to the board. Seeing the Kaiku and knock, I'm automatically thinking that it is probably a mirror match here. So my opponent is likely to summon, so I can just pick something off with Torrential, and then I can go into Donzalug if I need to. If they have an MST or something for my Torrential, I'm not able to pick off the monster. I have a Snatch Steal, and then I can, you know, clear the way for Donzalug that way. I also have this giant True Nade that can sort of clean up back row if I need to help get the Dawn in. So I think this plays fine. Opponent summons DD Warrior Lady. I'm just going to take it. That's a great snatch target, especially in the mirror, because it's just gonna delete your opponent's board essentially. The opponent does have Trap Dust Shoot and gets the value out of it here, so I lose the Donzalug, but you know, I have Snatch Steal with double Solemn Judgment backup now, and the monster that I'm snatch dealing is DD Warrior Lady. Opponent's only down to 2 cards, and they're going to have to, you know, utilize a resource just to take out this DD Warrior Lady. They play Heavy Storm, which is okay. I do have double Solemn, so here comes Blade Knight, just going to attack over the DD Warrior Lady. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to go down to 2250. That's not really that big of a deal. I do still have a Solemn Judgment to protect against Ring, and Ring, like, outside of BLS, really isn't going to be able to do 2250 to me, so that's fine. Draw Tribe Infecting Virus. I opt to not play it here because I do still have this Torrential. I'm way up on cards, so I may as well wait until I have a way to, like, either protect the tribe or activate this Torrential and then protect the tribe with a Solemn Judgment or whatever. But mostly want to draw something to actually protect the tribe here. So my opponent summons their tribe. I'm going to Torrential because this lets me start summoning, getting aggressive here. I draw a Trap Dust Shoot, which isn't ideal, and I do opt to play the tribe now. Reasoning is opponent's at 1 card. The Torrential has been burned, so I don't really have to worry about that just sitting in the back row, though. Like, I guess there's a reason, like, to still save the tribe. Like I said, I'm sort of looking for something to protect it, but also I do think it's okay. Probably not going to protect it with a Solemn Judgment, depending on what the opponent plays, if they do play a monster, but I think it's fine to start attacking there. I do think it was correct to hold it the turn before just because of the Torrential, if anything. But now we draw a Mirror Force, so the game is just, you know, in a very good spot for us. Because we have Mirror Force, Solemn Judgment back up. Our opponent clearly doesn't have any monsters. We draw a Rhoda, so just going to activate this Giant Trunade. Because I just want to get in a push here. If the opponent, you know, maybe Solemn Judgments this, obviously they lose. But they do know about our Solemn Judgment, so it's very likely that they're not going to do that. So maybe the Giant Trunade was a little premature. Maybe I'm actually supposed to wait on that. No, it also turns on Trap Dust Shoot if they don't activate anything here. Yeah, no, I think I'm fine with that. Knowing that it could potentially turn on the Trap Dust Shoot, this is probably fine. It is a little aggressive, but again, we are trying to get the game done as well. So no, that sort of fits into what I want to do here. I'm just gonna Rhoda for the Blade Knight. It's the biggest thing. We're gonna attack him for 3,600. Just put the opponent to 700. This also means that, you know, they can't play Premature Burial to get back the tribe. Which is also pretty big. So yeah, after looking back on it, rewatching the entire turn, I think the Giant Trunade was a good play there. It didn't work out with turning on the Dust Shoot, just because they did have, you know, a Dust Tornado there, but that's perfectly fine. They're gonna Mind Control the tribe, which I'm fine with. If they want to pop the Blade Knight, that's cool. If they want to pop the tribe, they lose everything. And that's fine. Our opponent's at 700. We just need to draw a monster, and the monster is going to be Kaiku. And we're going to win the game. So, pretty normal game in the mirror there. Giant Trunade showing that Giant Trunade is a good card, and honestly, I think it's underplayed in GOAT format. I think that card's just really good. So here... pretty awesome. We see sort of how the deck has changed here. We've got Royal Decree, Magician of Faith, and Metamorphosis in hand. But the opponent's going to play Duo, you know, boo. I'm mostly hoping they don't hit the Decree here because I want to, you know, maybe get some pluses with the Decree. Say my opponent just sets a big back row or whatever, I flip Decree. If they don't have a Judgment or a way to answer the Decree, it's an effective plus on a timer. But they set a monster here. I think for a while I was like, we're setting a monster turn 1 with a Delinquent Duo. I'm like, pretty sure this is either going to be like a Spy, a Kinetic Soldier, or a Faith or something. And all of those are very good for Exiled Force to hit. So I'm perfectly fine just getting the Exiled and eating that monster. And we do eat the Magician of Faith. Opponent has an MST for the Decree. So that's unfortunate. DD Warrior Lady comes down, hits me for 1,500. I'm not sure I made the best play possible here. I take a look at my graveyard and I was like, that Snatch Steel's pretty juicy for the Moth. I could have metaed the Moth away here for Thousand Eyes Restrict and taking the DD Warrior Lady, but I guess like we're expecting our opponent to have sided out the Nox and the level 2, so maybe just getting the Snatch Steel back is fine. That does lose out to Dust Tornado because the MST is gone, but yeah, like I could have meted there, but also maybe that's just not good. You just save the meta for later in case we draw into a Scapegoat or something and try to get the Snatch Steel play off here, which is what I do. I guess the Thousand Eyes Restrict play also loses out to like Exiled Force or Tribe. I don't know. I think that's a pretty close one. I rewatched this a couple of times, and I I debated on that play a few times. I'm not really sure what is actually correct to do there, but I love the board of Breaker against DD Warrior Lady back row. It's just so good for the person with Breaker. So take out a Heavy Storm, actually. I'm going to snatch the DD Warrior Lady. We're just going to be aggressive here. I feel like I'm actually quite behind, and this Torrential is not really doing anything with a bunch of monsters on the board, so I think this is fine. Just try to, you know, get aggressive, steal the game where we can. I'm not going to meta away the DD Warrior Lady because it is a threat in itself, you know, to take out something that could be problematic on the opponent's side. And Darkfire Dragon is certainly not going to help with that. I do draw Cyberstein here, which is interesting. I opt to go to battle phase and just attack with the DD Warrior Lady here, just to clear the Kaiku, but maybe we're already playing this aggressive strategy. No, I have this Torrential down, so maybe I don't need to go all in on the Cyberstein. Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense here. So I can just clear the board as far as monsters go, and then I have this Torrential to hopefully clear my opponent's next play, and then I can reevaluate on the Stein. So my opponent sets a monster. I draw into a Mobius, and I think I just want to opt to pass here. I don't think there's any reason to go into Cyberstein. I could set it, but again, if we're playing, you know, this Torrential plan, I don't think that's great either. So yeah, I just passed the turn. I think that's fine. Opponent summons Kaiku. Now we get an actual plus off of this Torrential, and we see that our opponent set the Zombra, so that's nice. We're actually up on cards here, but our opponent has a BLS, so not ideal. We're going to take 3,000. Now the Cyberstein is out of commission. Draw MST. I just set the MST, so right here before conceding, I should have activated the MST just for information value. It would have been a Solemn Judgment, of course, so I wouldn't have actually gained really anything interesting there, but it is worth noting that you should do that just for the information before conceding. So we go to game 3. I'm keeping in the transformational sideboard. Not really sure how my opponent really wants to play around it, but yeah, we open up a nice one here. I love seeing Royal Decree. So we're just going to set Ring, Decree, and pass. If my opponent has Heavy Storm, they have Heavy Storm. Maybe, so like, the reasoning for setting the Ring here over something chainable like Scapegoat, or chainable to Heavy Storm, is I want to get traps out of my hand before I activate this Decree. And maybe I'm supposed to play Torrential instead of the Ring. Because Ring is a more chainable thing that's, like, you know, good later. But I also still, well, I have Giant Trunade. So maybe with the Trunade, I'm not supposed to do any of this. Maybe I'm just supposed to set, like, Scapegoat Decree. or maybe just set decree. Yeah, I think so. Think looking back, the Ring of Destruction may have been a little bit of an overextension here. That said, like literally the only card that's going to punish me here is Heavy Storm. I guess. Yeah, the only card that's going to punish me here is Heavy Storm. So it maybe a bit too aggressive, maybe a little bit of an overextension, but I understand the reasoning behind it, and I understand, you know, the odds the opponent has to have exactly Heavy Storm. So yeah, I think the good mid-ground play would have been to set Scapegoat instead of the Ring of Destruction. Then I also sort of lose out to Breaker if Breaker hits the Royal Decree. So yeah, a lot of pros and cons for really any of the decisions here. So again, I think this was very close. Not sure which one is actually correct here. This kind of depends on what you want to play around in the situation, I think. Opponent summons Sasuke. I'm going to rip off Ring here because I do have this decree, so let's get the trap out of the way, clear a monster off the opponent's side of the board, and hope my opponent sets a big back row. They set one card. Okay, well, still going to flip the decree, hopefully turn that off. We draw Graceful Charity, which is pretty good here. We can actually get rid of this Torrential Tribute if we want to. We could opt to really, you know, get rid of Giant Trunade or Scapegoat here, depending on what we draw. We draw Mirror Force, Blade Knight, and another Scapegoat. So I think I get rid of Torrential and Mirror Force because I have the Decree. I'm not so sure that that was correct. I think I could have gotten rid of one of these Scapegoats, honestly, and saved the Mirror Force potentially, because I do have Giant Trunade to sort of bounce back the Royal Decree, but can also understand keeping the Scapegoats just because there is a Decree in play, and Mirror Force kind of acts like Decree a little bit, or Scapegoat acts as a Mirror Force a little bit. Words are hard. So yeah, maybe I could have done some better discarding there, but I think it's probably fine. Breaker's going to get in for 1900. Main phase 2, I am going to opt to pop the back row. Even if it is, you know, a trap or something, I don't want my opponent to snatch steal this Breaker. I could have summoned Blade Knight, but again, you know, we are in range of like Heavy Storm hurting us pretty badly, so I didn't want to just set a bunch of cards to get a 2k beater when I could get in for 19 with Breaker, take care of a back row, and then Blade Knight can maybe come in and clean up like a problematic Kaiku or an opponent's Breaker or something like that. So I'm okay with this. Now I'm going to set a Scapegoat. My opponent does have the Snatch Steal, so, you know, thankfully we were able to sniff out that that's a possibility and get rid of the counter from the Breaker. So they attack in. We're just going to lose a goat. Not a big deal. We draw Heavy Storm here. Gain 1,000. So obviously we're not going to play the Storm. We have the option of do nothing. We also have the option of Giant Trunade, get the Breaker back, start getting aggressive. But that puts us down a Giant Trunade, which honestly doesn't really matter because we do have Heavy Storm and Royal Decree. So that could be a good play. And then, like, yeah, if the opponent wants to, I don't know. Because, like, if the opponent wants to, like, snatch steal the Blade Knight now, then we just lose the Breaker, and we have, I mean, we have all kinds of cards to protect us here, right? I do make the Giant Trunade play. We get the Breaker. I'm going to set to, I'm not sure why I set the Heavy Storm. Oh, I set the Heavy Storm because, yeah, I want to save the Scapegoat for later in case I need more defenses. So if the opponent uses Heavy Storm here, I would rather them actually take out my Heavy Storm than my Scapegoat. So that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to attack him with Blade Knight and then attack him with Breaker. There may not have been a reason to attack with the Blade Knight first. I probably should have attacked with the Breaker. Just gotten an extra 400 points of damage there. But our opponent just sets 3 back row. Summons a Blade Knight. So now they can just attack over our Breaker. They could have opted to snatch steal the Blade Knight to start working on some of these goat tokens, but they don't. and that's fine with me. So I'm going to flip Decree on the instep. I draw Snatch Steal, which is just obviously, you know, just the best here. To play around everything, I'm just going to flip Heavy Storm. My opponent's going to concede. So a few really close decisions, especially in that last game. That, you know, could have been sort of coin flippy, could have gone other ways for sure. But you sort of see a little bit of what I was going for with the power of Decree, the power of Scapegoat. Really didn't get to see the brain controls or the monarchs or anything like that in this match, but you sort of get the idea that the deck does juke quite a bit with this strategy. Not so sure how good the metamorphosis are, but was something that I was looking at. Still am sort of looking at doing with the warrior deck. Just as I'm coming up with new ideas, trying to get things to work with it. But yeah, this was a bit of a shorter one, but hope you guys enjoyed. We'll be back with the next video.